So hey folks, it's Woody again. This is my basic tips number 18. I hope that's right. I don't know. Anyway, it's almost the end of the year. We've kind of, it's crawled to the end here. It's 2020, crazy year. But I've had some archive video stuff that I've been trying to work on for couple of months actually, different things, and one of the subject matters or ideas that I had for content was I had a couple of people ask me about reharmonization. It's something that I've always kind of done in arranging in different circumstances or production, and it continues to be something that I enjoy doing even in my as a music director at my church. And so I have a couple of extreme examples of me reharmonizing hymns and different things. Specifically one of Ferris Lord Jesus that I played fretless on, and so I may bring that in at some point as reference. But the art of reharmonizing a song or a particular melody. I mean, it's a pretty simple kind of process, actually. I mean, there's a couple of ways to do it, but the easiest way to look at that is if you take a melody, just make sure you know the melody and the chord structures, and you take that melody and try to find all the possible options of chord qualities that you can attach to that melody. And sometimes you can get out there. Sometimes it's just a matter of enhancing a bit with a couple of little chord movements. But there's a lot of people who do it. There's some great stuff out there now, contemporary wise. I mean, one of the young groups out there, there's these three guys from Denmark or Sweden. I think they're from Sweden, but Dirty Loops, and those guys do some great stuff with, cover stuff and cover tunes. They'll take the melody and definitely rework it and reharmonize. And they're a funky band, man. They're great players. So there's all kinds of stuff out there. But anyway, this video is dealing with the idea of reharmonization. And I have an example of one jazz standard, like Someone in Love, that you're going to hear the simple melody played on keyboard with simple chords, and then you'll hear just a few embellishments that I will make to it, harmonically and otherwise. Nothing really, really out there, but just just kind of working with that melody and reharmonizing using a couple of different chord structures. And one video is really not enough time to do it service, so I'll probably do a short little mini series on reharmonization. But the way to get started, if you want to do that, is, like I said, just get make sure you know a melody and maybe even write it out for yourself, and take each note and try to find those options of chords that to your ear sound kind of cool, and you can get kind of out there, or you can stay, as I said, maybe just in enhancing the tune and keeping it relatively simple. But I hope you enjoy this. I apologize for the audio quality of some of the video, because this was done a while back, and I recorded a lot of the stuff just off the cuff into my phone at the time, just thinking I would redo it. But the thoughts are there intact, and so I just wanted this to be our beginning introduction to reharmonization. See you next time. Another point that needs to be made right up front before anything else is, along with trying to learn to play piano, or at least be able to plunk out chord structures and understand the function of how chords move easily from one to another, traditionally and in a jazz context or in a pop context, breaking the rules. But one of the things that you need to have under your belt and some significant knowledge about, even though this is a beginner look at how to start to reharmonize melodies or songs, chord structure wise, is you do need to understand and know lots of chord structures. That means altered chords, all kinds of you need to be able to spell those chords. You need to be understand and at least be able to play them and see what they sound like, and maybe even recognize them, so that you know what will fit with certain melodic note or certain melody notes. So that is kind of part of this, that you have to have some knowledge of chord structure. Thing is to learn to play piano. Get enough of a facility that you can do chord structures, basic scales. You may not be a studio pianist. That's not the intention. The intention is to use it as an orchestrating or orchestration tool. It's one of the best instruments for that. Even as a bass player, I can say I've always played keyboards. I've always played piano, and so I love the harmonic possibilities, the way you can do arrangements and figure stuff out. So get yourself familiar with a keyboard or a piano and start to get some facility and learn all the ins and outs of voicings, chord structures, harmonic movement, how things function, and that will help you immensely. Another thing about the reharmonization on Like Someone in Love, going into the second half of the melody, or that chorus, there's a little turnaround that a lot of times people do a 2/5 progression. I tend to do, the melody stays on one note before it starts the verse melody again. I tend to use that note to do two different 2/5 progressions, and that progression starts on the flat 7 minor 7 of whatever key you are, and moves up in fourths or down in fifths, like a cycle of fourths with two different 2/5 progressions. In other words, if we're in the key of B flat, which we will be, then it would be A flat minor 7 to a D flat 7, then to F sharp minor 7 to a B 7, and then back to the B flat for the beginning of the verse. So that's an interesting sort of new, different kind of sounding turnaround than even more so than Coltrane's 1 flat 3, flat 6. To a flat 2, and then resolving to a 1. But, a similar kind of turnaround. Reharmonization is a device or a technique that is used to sort of, in an arrangement way, to change perhaps chord structures and or rhythmic aspects or other things to enhance the normal melody for a particular song or composition. It can have dramatic effects, or it can just be a little spark. I've done this a lot throughout my life, unknowingly, or just because I wanted something to sound cooler or different or have a little spark of a chord change. I've always been harmonically, that stuff appeals to me. This is such a broad subject that this is going to be just a 101 sort of beginner introduction to how to approach reharmonizing something, and at least the way I do it. A couple of ways to do it, but it's such a broad subject that really one video is not enough to cover everything in this. But I will give you some ideas. The basic premise is to take a song and the chord structures, examine and analyze the melody. you got to know the melody. It may be even helpful to write out the melody, or you see it, and you see those notes. And with each note, you should go through, or at least the points, the markers where a melody is like one note, maybe for a duration of more than one beat, but you will take each one of those notes and find all of the permutations of chord structures that would have that note in the chord structure, whether it's an altered chord or another totally different quality chord, different key center maybe, that you could go from where you are to that and come back. And it could actually be a chord structure that has alterations or something in it that against the melody note. It might not have the melody note in the chord, but against that chord structure, it has a certain effect that is pleasing, maybe dissonantly pleasurable, if that's a good way to look at it, I think. Then you start to implement those and inject those chord structures into the arrangement. Now, I've heard it done, and I've done it many ways. And like Someone in Love, there's enough chord movement already in the original and these standards to be satisfying. But I find, for me, I like injecting another 2/5 progression or something that fits with a particular melody note. And one example of that would be if you have like a minor 9 chord where the minor second is the added partial above. Let's say we have like a D minor 9. So you would have D, F, A, C, and E being the minor 9. Well, then if I'm going to resolve that in a 2/5 manner, I would be going to a G7 of some sort. So if you have that E in there, that is the 6th, which would be a 13th. So you could do a D minor 9 to a G13 or some variant thereof, maybe an altered 5/7 or G7 altered chord, but it still has that major 6 or the 13th in there, the E. And so you could utilize that melody, whether it's in the original arrangement or not, as your reharmonization of that melody. And then you could come back to whatever the key center is. It just, I think it's trial and error in many ways. And in other ways, it's just, for me, sometimes it's happy little accidents that happen. That's the way I've approached it many years. But yeah, it's kind of being familiar enough with the melody, or as you're seeing the melody move, you look at the keyboard or your instrument and you see what chordal possibilities will work with that. And that's really the basic development of that idea, is to do it that way. So hope that helps. See you next time. The way you can reharmonize as a bass player is to change the bass note that you play over a certain quality of chord. In other words, for instance, if you're playing a major chord, if I move a whole step above you, that makes that a 7 sus suspended chord, or like a 4/5 kind of chord. And so those kind of suspended chords, you can do that kind of stuff or change. Anyway, there are ways that you can change or play the 3rd of the chord rather than the 5th of the chord, and just give a different quality to it. So that's another way of semi-reharmonization as a bassist.